This game is supposed to be better than Skyrim. I am intrigued.
I've talked a lot about the downfall of Bethesda on this channel, and
Same. Free real estate.
there's one game that people have kept telling me to check out, and that's been Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon. I've seen comments, people saying these guys are doing what Bethesda has forgotten how to do.
Oh my, this already looks pretty good, not gonna lie.
How to make a great Scrolls-like or Bethesda-like. The type of first-person RPG with an exploration system that feels really rewarding and that you guys actually seem to like. So, color me surprised when the developers reached out to sponsor a video. It wasn't difficult to put two and two together, and you guys know how the channel operates. Honesty and disclosure come first. So look, I played the game, I liked it, and I told them, all right, let's do it. So a shout out to the developers Questline and the publisher Awaken Realms for sponsoring this video. And again, disclosure, these guys know how important it is for me to be honest in my reviews, so the only requirement I have is to talk about the features of the game.
Oh wow, yeah, this looks pretty decent. Just from a looks point of view, it feels good.
Everything else is 100% my opinion, and I guess I already spoiled it for you. I think Tainted Grail is really damn good. Incredibly impressive that this is put together by a small team, especially if you compare it to Bethesda, and I'm...
Combat looks interesting. Not the best how long it took for the NPC to react, but, I mean, not bad.
Incredibly excited at the potential of what this game will be when it's done, because it is in early access, currently in patch 0.7, which means it's gotten its second big content update. The second act of the game is now there, and it's missing Act 3 coming up for its full launch. So hi, I'm Mug. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not new here, welcome back. Let's talk about a different type of Scrolls-like. Now, Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon takes place in a world of Arthurian legend, which I wasn't expecting to be as cool as it is. Let me just say that up front. You start the game out in a prison cell, answering some different questions that will determine your stats. I wonder if this seems familiar to any of you at this point. And from
doesn't seem familiar at all. Good start.
there, you're set out on the world of Avalon, and so far, you're going to be able to explore two regions, which are the Horns of the South and the Kunat. Kunat, I think it's Kunat. And the story and the world here are some of my favorite parts. There is basically a cataclysmic event. This has to do with the weird...
I love cataclysmic events. Holy, this is like a game made for me already. Now, but seriously, everything so far looks pretty decent. I mean, listen, it's probably not honestly that hard to overthrow Skyrim at this point, because it's been forever. So people need to try. People honestly need to just try and make a Skyrim game, a Scrolls game, and just make it better. Because everything Bethesda touches turns to shit now.
weirdness with a Y. Think of it as an ever-enveloping fog that's taking over
This forest looks cool. This looks already better than any location Bethesda has ever created. 10 out of 10.
for everything, and there's a big critical mission to gather the Menhirs and stop this from happening, but there's a lot of intrigue and stuff regarding Arthur
Ooh,
himself
look at that. Those attacks seem pretty based.
and stuff that went
I
down.
like this.
There are Knights of the Round Table in this game, and more importantly, there's a lot of weird, crazy creatures and designs that I really enjoy. During the prologue, you'll be introduced to all of the
That blood-sucking ability looks pretty good.
joy.
And you're telling me this is just early alpha? I mean, this already looks pretty decent. I'm kind of liking this a lot. I'm already almost sold. And since the disaster of Avowed, which comes out today, but again, I have no plans of playing it, because I ain't gonna play 90. I ain't gonna pay $90 for something that's not even a AAA game, okay? And if this costs like 30 or 40 bucks, man, is this a head start? Because again, previously I was opinion, hey, if a game is good enough, pay those 70 bucks. But now, considering we don't know if games are good enough because everything's woke garbage nowadays, yeah, I'm like not gonna randomly pay more than 40 to the max, if I'm being completely honest. So if this thing costs 40 or 30 bucks, holy.
During the prologue, you'll be introduced to all of the basic mechanics of the game. So you'll be explained combat, you'll be explained the dodging system that does have iframes, you'll be explained how to block and parry, and you'll also gain access to your slow time skill, whereby pressing the middle mouse button at any moment, you can slow down time in combat, and you refuel the slowing down time potion by taking down enemies. I'll be honest, I didn't use this that much. After you're introduced to melee, to range...
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, seems a bit rando. I mean, it doesn't seem bad, but seems a little bit like something that you honestly probably mostly want to use if you're in melee, not actual range.
To magic, and to the basics of leveling up in the skill system, which we'll talk about more later on. You are set out on the open world. The structure for Tainted Grail is that both of the regions are smaller open world sections. You can probably cross the entirety of those sections maybe in 3 minutes or so, 3 or 4 minutes, which might sound a bit small, but also you move really fast in this game. But it's worth mentioning that these...
Oh wow, that was a neat lightning attack, 10 out of 10.
areas are also very dense. There's not a lot of big stretches of land with nothing in them. There's a lot of different waypoints, a lot of different areas.
Holy shit, he's on a crusade
of interest to explore. And
yo, this is what, dude, man, that clip already just sold me, boys, ain't gonna lie.
all of them are good. Once you're set out in the first region, you can go ahead and follow the main quest. This will lead you down a series.
And also, you're probably thinking, 3 minutes from that side to the other side, that's not a lot. Well, to be honest, you can do it in Star Wars Outlaws also, which is probably the worst thing any human has ever said before, because Star Wars Outlaws is complete Bethesda trash. Well, actually, it's Ubi slop, but you know, what's the difference between Ubisoft and Bethesda? One's more dead than the other currently, okay? But, I mean, you can traverse Skyrim also extremely fast, to be completely honest, from one side to the other side. It does not honestly take a lot of time to just run from one side to the other. Skyrim is not actually that vast of a place. It just creates a lot of detours and dungeons that you want to enter, and that's kind of the kicker about Skyrim. It's not actually really that large, but they do a good job in making you feel like it's large.
Series of different quests where you can make some very traditional RPG decisions, including who to side with on very big decisions that
hell yeah.
I imagine are going to have bigger ramifications later on in the game. And the overall feel to tackling those main missions or doing whatever else you want is very hands-off. Even some of the main quests can be solved in different ways, including the fact that there's a pretty long quest line that you might do.
Player choice. Look at that. That's something that's been missing from most games.
Later that requires you to fulfill 3 or 4 different quests with different NPCs, or you can just kill everybody. That's what I like to see. So when it comes to the...
Oh yeah, this is a stark contrast from Starfield. Okay, if this NPC has a name, you can't touch it. You can't touch it. NPC have name, can't touch it. Man, remember the good old days of Fallout and whatnot, but you could kill literally everyone except like one NPC and still finish the game. Good times.
Questing, to talking to people, to making decisions, to waypoint markers, to keeping track of your quest log, going and fulfilling requests, and the open-endedness that you're going to find within those quests. Yeah,
desperate peasant. Well, now he no longer needs to be desperate. He's cooked.
This is pretty much what you'd expect. In my opinion, this is at the standard of a Bethesda game, of a good Bethesda game. I found writing and voice acting across the board to be pretty good. I wouldn't say it's exceptional. Some characters I did enjoy a lot, especially the voice acting, because I'm not familiar with these sorts of accents, so it's very entertaining to hear them. And I feel like the overall production quality is really high for what is an indie game. In that aspect, at least, I feel like it's very close to a Bethesda game in that it has some really good highs and it has some lows.
I'm not getting near a goddamn boat unless I know where I'm going.
Away from here, brother. Isn't that enough?
There's some characters with weird voices.
Okay. That was arguably bad but good at the same time. Don't know how to feel about that one, honestly.
Or weird filters on them that didn't sound completely right to me. But given that this is a $30 indie game...
Oh yeah, $30. Let's go, baby.
To be trading blows in that arena with one of the biggest studios in the world is quite impressive. Of course, they also get away
Bigger, yet deader studios in the world.
with this because the overall scope here is not that big. Now, both acts of the game currently have around 10 to 15 hours of content each, and a lot of that content is exploration and combat. So once you're setting out on quests, a lot
Basic flamethrower ability, okay.
of them are going to have you fighting. And I think that the fighting system in this game,
The lightning animation's pretty balls on though, gotta say.
the overall combat is really good, and it has some very interesting quirks to it. Now, the term that a lot of people have used to describe this is indie Skyrim, and I can see why. It definitely has that feel, but I also think that title does it a disservice because I also get a lot of vibes from other games here. There's a small part of this that reminds me of Dark Souls in some of its gameplay loop and like memorizing certain combat scenarios and patterns. And you can also feel that within the weight system. So the game's combat system focuses on 4 loadouts, hotkeyed to the 1, 2, 3, and 4 keys. And each of these is a pair.
The ranged archer has a sword. I'm feeling like I'm being lied to at this point, boys. But currently, the locations seem good. The locations seem interesting. There's a decent amount of verticality in places, which is actually good, by the way, in my opinion. But the NPCs, yeah, we already saw this at the very start. The poison gods, or whatever they were called. Yeah, it's the same thing. I guess it's not that bad as long as it's interesting, but yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
Pair of weapons that you can switch to at any moment.
The animations, though, are pretty good for the fireball exploding. I kind of like that. Look at that. Feels pretty decent. Maybe the fireball is not as big as you would want it, but you know, maybe that's just the start. Maybe later on you can cast apocalyptic shit, which would be pretty good. Also, what do we see out here in the distance? Don't know.
3 and 4 keys, and each of these is a pair of weapons that you can switch to at any moment. This is because you want to switch around what you're doing mid-fight, so collecting different gear with unique effects that is going to help you for one specific thing, like applying a status effect with one of your weapons and then switching to a different weapon is something that is encouraged. When it comes to melee weapons, you have a normal swing and a heavy swing. You can raise up your shield, you can use bows, you can use throwing daggers, and you can use magic. And you can have all of those things equipped to all of your different loadouts and switch between everything at the same time, which leads to a pretty fun combat experience that is also quite kinetic and has really nice effects and weight to it. The way that it keeps the basic combat loop working really well is dodging, at least on key.
Yeah, I was gonna say, watching combat and doing combat are two different things, and I wouldn't honestly say the combat here looks super impressive per se, but it definitely when you're playing, it probably does feel kind of good.
Keyboard, you use the left alt key for a dodge that has iframes, kind of like Dark Souls. So you really want to dodge at the last minute. It becomes very reactive in a satisfying way to wait for an enemy's attack or to sneak your attack just before that and immediately dash away. And even when you're playing a ranged character, you'll find your opponents are rushing you, or you'll find a lot of enemies, including mini bosses, especially.
Yeah, currently the enemy animations is probably the weakest part of this game, not gonna lie. You can just see it in the look. It's not bad, but you can tell that it's not a lie.
Act 2 that throw out attacks that are long range, so you're always going to be dashing. That really helps in making the combat feel engaging instead of the usual trading blows and potions that you would do in, for example, Skyrim. These enemies have different moves that you can easily recognize because it's intended for you to learn them and dodge out of the way, and I really enjoy that.
What are we doing here? A little bit of that good old fancy Nurgle worship? Is it time?
Part of the combat system is the weight system. So this is where another Dark Souls comparison comes in. Your character can be light, medium, or heavy, and each of those comes with different penalties. The heavier that you go, the slower that your mana regenerates and the more that your spells cost, as well with having your dashes and your overall stamina consumption change depending on how much armor you're wearing.
That's a pretty basic mechanic, I guess, Well, this is just a basic balancing mechanic, right? Because, well, if you can be a mage and mage is the most DPS, obviously it's supposed to go in the direction of a glass cannon. Mages, glass cannons, ranged archers, medium, and then there's people who use swords, which are the heavy armor wearing tankish style of characters. And, well, obviously, the tanky character is going to take less damage, but deal less damage also. Well, take less damage. And mages are going to deal the most damage, but take the most damage to balance it out. So this does make sense. This is just a thing that they implemented, so you're not going to be a mage in full plate.
This means that if you want to be a spellcaster, you're going to be a glass cannon because you're going to be wearing very little armor, but in exchange, you get to throw out spells from far away all day. If you go in the medium armor category, you can use a pretty healthy mix of different things, and if you go heavy, you're basically not going to be using magic. At most, you're going to be throwing out a spell in order to get a status effect going. You're really there to tank and to sit in front of your enemy and knock them down with melee attacks. I found this to be a really interesting decision when it comes to the balance of the game, and my
Dude, looking at the spells, I mean, damn, it's gonna be pretty good. It's almost like in Skyrim. In Skyrim, one of the most enjoyable parts of the game, honestly, was learning a new spell because they felt good. And here, casting shit seems to feel good, okay? I can just, I'm not even playing and I can tell that, yeah, casting stuff feels pretty good. Because all the abilities are so far, what we have seen is your basic fireball ability, your basic frostball ability, life drain, this telekinesis fire blade thing, and a zappy lightning. And all of them feel and look pretty good, I have to say, okay? The ranged combat also, the melee combat was, well, we didn't see a lot of it, but, it also seemed not bad. So, the only thing that currently seems honestly off about this is definitely just the animation and fluidity of these enemies. They feel stiff. But everything else so far, the locations look good. I'm kind of impressed.
Your enemy and knock them down with melee attacks. I found this to be a really interesting decision when it comes to the balance of the game, and my initial fears were that having the
Not really. This is a common thing.
These really hard limitations on your build was going to have the game feel like it's constraining what you can do with the combat.
Not really. Again, you don't really expect to be a plate-vetting spellcaster, to be honest.
Like, it really wanted to prevent you from becoming this overpowered, massive tank wearing the best and coolest armor, and also flinging spells and spectral daggers or whatever. And that is the reason that is there. They don't want you to do that, but that doesn't mean you won't become overpowered in combat, which is one of my favorite parts about this game. Tainted Grail has no issue with you becoming very powerful. During my playthrough, I went out of the way to do some little jumping puzzles and figure my way around the castle area.
Ooh, jumping puzzles. To be fair, in a game that moves this fast, that could be horrible. That could be. I like jumping puzzles. I am one of those freaks of nature. You caught me. I'll fully admit it, okay? I'm not ashamed of who I am, okay? For the most part. Jumping puzzles, I'm fine with them. I even like them, to be completely honest with you. But, I mean, damn, boy. Damn, boy. Okay? Listen, in a game like this, with movement like this, I think jumping puzzles could potentially be really, 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 really frustrating.
I found a mage's corpse in that process, and they were carrying an incredibly powerful ice spell. It has a very unique property where if you only tap the spell, you throw out 5 different icicles all scattered around. The more you charge it, the more you concentrate that blast on one position. I'm not sure if what I'm about to describe now is a bug. I hope it isn't, because it's a really...
God, you know why I'm actually drooling about this game? Because I am a stealth player. I have literally always played, for example, things like Fallout as stealth sniper. Stealth mage, stealth whatever, as long as I can hide in the shadows, have a completely unfucking fair advantage, I'm happy. I'm happy, I'm smiling, I'm having a good day, boys. Again, not a play style for everyone, but I enjoy it, and that is the thing that I enjoy absolutely without question, demos. It is the best in my opinion, it's the most fun in my opinion, because I enjoy these dirty fucking advantages. I play a rogue in World of Warcraft. Fucking suck my dick. It is what it is. Okay? I play dirty combo decks that pop out of nowhere in card games. That's... I am all about that unfair advantage. Okay? And I'm not about winning. That's the best part. I'm about sending a message. So, if I can be a stealth guy and play this game, oh, I just love it. Okay, we don't have enough games that allow you to approach combat in many different ways: melee, range, stealth. Maybe you want to talk, okay? And this obviously does. Beautiful.
Really fun thing that I enjoyed, but if you don't fully charge it, it still counts as 5 separate blasts, which I believe means that it stacks frost 5 times, which if you charge it all the way, I think it only counts as 1 stack of frost. This means that if you perfectly time your charge so that it's pretty grouped up but not all the way there, I found myself consistently freezing enemies by throwing out these icicles and then being able to smash them while they're frozen with heavy attacks. And this was completely broken, but here's the thing, I found that spell because I went out of my way to explore in places that I don't think many people would have gone out of their way to explore. So it felt incredibly rewarding to find something so strong. There's also a skill and a timing component to using the spell in that way, and there's a lot of flexibility of using it when fighting multiple enemies. And then finally, just repeatedly throwing out that spell, freezing enemies and bonking them over the head with the different effects and the slow-mo executions. It's just fun all the time. And in a day and age where games seem to always want you to experience the game on their terms, finding stuff that breaks things, finding really powerful loot, or going up to a really strong enemy that you probably shouldn't be able to take down and figuring
Bro, you literally just fucking said all of that and show the wolf, okay?
out a way to do that and getting a loot that is very powerful.
You gotta love it.
I love that. I hope that doesn't change about this game moving forward, because having a reward structure like...
By the way, does the environment kind of remind you of New World? Because... especially this, like, the cliffside. This reminds me so much of New World. And New World is a shit game, but the environments are beautiful, and they are well made, honestly, okay? New World does do that pretty well. I'm not gonna lie.
Love that. I hope that doesn't change about this game moving forward, because having a reward structure like that means that when I'm running around the world, training my stats, Skyrim leveling system for specific stats, by the way, so I run it.
Yeah, we already figured that. Oh, actually, I'm in front. Maybe you didn't figure it, that the magic has its own leveling system, one-handed has its own leveling system, and sneak. You could see the pop-ups for XP pop up here. Maybe you couldn't see it because I was at the front. No, don't care. Now you know.
Everywhere. Sliding, you've already seen in the footage, because that way I'm improving athletics and sneak and evasion at the same time. Gotta min-max the running. Anyways, whenever I'm running to different places and I see something in the distance, I'm curious. I wonder if there's a dungeon there. I wonder if there's some secret, because the first time that...
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Those are the golden words every person that enjoyed Skyrim or Fallout wants to hear. Hey, I'm going that direction, but I see a pile of shit there, and that's strange because there shouldn't be any poop. I wonder what made it. I must go in that direction now to pique my curiosity.
That you go to an area
Beautiful.
That maybe in a different game you'd be like, oh, I can't go there. I'm not supposed to be there.
Admittedly, I'm going to tell you one thing, boys. This game's probably going to have the exact problem that every exploration and open world game has for me. AK, I start the game, I completely ignore what's asked of me to do in the main quest, and, well, there's this happy fun zone that I should be going because that's where everyone is supposed to go. But I'm like, oh, what's that? Fucking Cazadors. That's what's there, by the way. It's fucking Cazadors. Every single time it's Cazadors. But that's just life, and I don't regret anything.
There, but you try and go there anyways and find a really cool, powerful sword. You're like, oh
Red
wait,
caps.
this game is taking all of these things into account. And that to me is the secret of making the exploration here feel great. It feels like some of Bethesda's best efforts in a way that their recent efforts don't. And I don't know if that's the developers here being really smart at identifying that and taking advantage of the smaller scope of the game to make sure that the game world rewards exploration, or if it's just pure coincidence on their way to making a great game. But god damn it, it is a super important part of a Bethesda game. Dungeons frequently have alternate routes that are there if you're just paying attention. If you're looking around the environment, you'll be like, oh wait, it looks like
Oh, that is very cool.
I can crawl through there, and you'll skip the whole thing and end up at the boss. That is awesome and makes me really want to keep playing the game. And that exploration of collecting different armor, fighting different enemies, of the combat being so good, is right now the entire basis of Act 2, which doesn't have the main story there. It has side quests, but it's mainly a sandbox of exploration. It's the whole new region, and while you can't follow
Okay, this seems like kind of better now. Again, dude, this I would be super sold if they just made the NPCs feel a little bit more lively. I am someone who puts a lot of emphasis on a game just feeling lived in and lively because those things just kind of make sense to me. And yeah, if they make NPCs a little bit more fluent, I think that would be huge.
through on the main story quest that in the first one, in the Horns of the South, takes you to Kunak. The second region is just, hey, go out there, enter dungeons, fight the new enemies, look at the new environments. They're very pretty because the art style in this game I personally find really cool. It's very grotesque. I like a lot of them.
Yeah, the NPCs are in the 10 out of 10s that you would expect, but I'm assuming this is going to have mod abilities. So, I mean, we're going to give her a tongue, we're going to give her a rack, and we're going to remove all that unnecessary clothing.
Monster designs. They're creepy in a good and original fantasy type way because it is a different sort of fantasy instead of the more typical, hey, goblins and dwarves type of thing, which helps. That also might be where some of those comparisons I have to Dark Souls are, which is also not the most traditional fantasy art style. But in that second region, you're just running around and finding new things and getting into combat encounters because the game knows that its biggest strengths are in exploring the world, finding those cool.
Dude, all of this looks so good. It kind of reminds me of something like Elden Ring to a degree. And I bet people are gonna like that. In any case, I am absolutely sold. There's a stat system here, as you can clearly see. Endurance, dexterity, spirituality, practicality? Huh. Needed to read that 15 times to make sure I'm not mistaken, because that's one hell of a strange stat to have, honestly. And perception. Okay. Then we have a sheet, melee damage, spell power, damage in general, lifesteal. Ooh. Alchemy bonus, cooking, handcrafting, price of bought goods. Oh my. Dude. If this game has an actual, like, New Vegas type of talent system, plus a Skyrim 3 type of talent system, that would be amazing. Because, honestly, you know what? I'm fine with games not having the most in-depth skill trees or anything like that, you know? Unless it's, you know, the equivalent of Diablo 4 skill twig. That's really bad, though. But, you know, maybe Dragon Age Veilguard is a pile of garbage, but I will say this because I have said it before. I don't honestly think Veilguard's skill tree is that bad. I think that's probably the highlight of the game, honestly. And stuff like that is pretty good. But I honestly don't like there just being one system. When you level up, there is one thing that you do, but you need to have something that's, you know, between level ups. For example, World of Warcraft, especially Classic, had professions that you could level passively and things like that. That is an additional system, right? Weapon skills, armor, defense skill, and all of that jazz. And, well, I just like that. I like there being two different things. Path of Exile does it great, honestly, in my opinion, because you have your basic character level where you get to put skill points in the skill tree, and then you have gem levels, which is another great, honestly, thing. And, stuff like that. Whenever there's two systems working in tangent at the same time, I think it's great. So having your basic level system, where if you get enough points, you get to pick a perk or something like that, amazing. But if on top of that you also have, hey, you use magic, well, your magic just level up, and now you can choose some kind of specific magic thing to do. And that is just so good. When there's two systems working in tangent, it is great. It is probably the best thing ever. Well, even if you only have one basic level up system, that's kind of neat. But, when there's two working together, it's just the best, because there's constant progress. You're feeling constantly rewarded. It hits those dopamine spikes and shit like that. Well, anyway, 10 out of 10. That was Mug Thief. He steals for fun, not because necessity. Bye-bye.